Hi, I'm Logan T. Smith for Opinions Subject to Change, here to talk about A Quiet Place Part 2. But first, this video is not sponsored by booster seats, where in my jurisdiction, kids will have to stay in booster seats until they're 12 years old. So, what the booster seat does is it just brings the seatbelt to sit on the right part of a child's body, which couldn't possibly be done by small plastic adjusters like you see in car seats. Picking up immediately after the events of the first film, A Quiet Place Part 2 follows our family on their continued adventure. With their lives thrown into upheaval by the events of the first film, they set out to try and find a new way to live. This forces a change in genre between the films. Where the first is a horror drama, the sequel is more horror adventure. It's sort of like Jurassic Park, but without all the wonder of creation and dinosaurs. If you're thinking, that sounds more up my alley than the first, maybe I'll just watch Part 2. Don't do it. The world building is primarily in the first movie, and the family dynamic will have far less meaning and emotional impact without the context of the first movie. On the flip side, if you've seen the first movie and you're expecting a similar experience to it, Part 2 may come as a bit of a surprise. It really is a shift in tone and style, which to me is a good thing. The feeling of the first, I think, would be unsustainable in a sequel, and the change is fitting and it just feels right. The emotional core, though, of this movie is not as strong as the first, but there's a lot more actual stuff going on. Some of that actual stuff, though, is some decisions made by the characters just don't make any sense. And there's a reveal in it that really doesn't add anything to the story, and I think the filmmakers could have done a better job with one of the subplots. Overall, I don't think it hurts the film that much, but it doesn't fully reach the potential I think that the story had. A Quiet Place Part 2 is not quite as quiet as the first movie. And unfortunately, it introduces some harsh language. Not very much, but it is here now, which it wasn't in the first one. There's also a little bit more violence with monsters and between people. The violence, though, is more action-y and less emotionally impactful, or perhaps you could say it's just more casual violence. Just like the first, though, this movie is a showcase for surround sound. The filmmakers have done an excellent job of kind of putting you in the space and making those sounds of the world, the wind and the rustling leaves and the tinks of little things moving around, putting those in space around you to make you feel like you're in the area with them. Also, you see a lot more of the world in this one, and you see more of the monsters, and they both look really good. Overall, I like Part 2 more, and I give it an 8 out of 10. But it really is just because it's more my kind of movie. I'm sure there will be plenty of people that prefer the first. If you really want that more suspenseful horror type of feeling, the first has a lot more of that. The second is much more adventure than the first. The horror element is reduced, although there's still suspense, there's still jumps, there's still that kind of stuff. It's just not as strong in this one. I still think that A Quiet Place would be perfectly fine for teenagers, although probably keep the small kids away, especially if you have to deal with their nightmares. And if you're looking for more info or you're curious to see my review sheet, it's available at logantsmith.ca and hit the OSTC blog link. Thank you very much.